If you're hearing this on an Android device as you watch your dog mercilessly destroy your entire house, well, there's probably a dog training app to help you. But in the more useful directly sense, check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. So at least you have something interesting to listen to while you watch that dog absolutely destroy everything you own. Check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, a man who would laugh at my misfortune much the same way Reginald Vell Johnson does in Turner and Hooch, the Macho Mandrew.
Andrew Lano. And yeah, I probably would.
There is a Disney Plus show arriving right around today. I forget the date of the show's arrival, but based on this
summer release.
Yeah. I'm just saying, don't check your calendars. It's not accidentally Thanksgiving. I realize in the time we're living in now, time kind of slips by you, and suddenly you're like, oh, it's that month now, huh? Interesting. So I just want to reassure everyone out there that it is not Hanksgiving. This is not. There is no turkey. I mean, you could make a turkey, but there is not a traditionally
decided to burn through some of Tom Hanks' filmography out of season.
Well, look, this has always been my thing. If there's a legitimate reason to tie into a Tom Hanks, we should do it. But other than that, we'll just he's the only person who has a slot.
I know.
We have 26 episodes a year, and then I know this is insane, but we're approaching 10 years of this podcast. We're barreling toward that. And I just, sometimes things are a good idea. And you're like, I don't know if that was a permanently good idea or just a good idea,
I think Hanksgiving is a solidly permanently good idea.
I like it, but it's sometimes I want some flexibility there. I have some other ideas that I'd like to put in that slot. So if we check off a few Tom Hanks boxes early, I think that's fine. One day, one of us will be the first of the two of us to get married. We're going to do bachelor party. That's going to happen. That will be the celebration of that.
That's fair.
A logical time to do it. So those are the things. And also, there's a couple of Tom Hanks movies from the 80s that we're not going to do. There's a couple of the weird dramas in there that
after is Philadelphia 80s or 90s?
No, thankfully Philadelphia is 93.
I mean, I wouldn't even never.
This is not the appropriate venue for that film discussion. We are here to make jokes and have some fun with a thing. That movie is the opposite of fun. But this actually it's just interesting you bring up Philadelphia, because I find this movie really interesting in sort of the career timeline of Tom Hanks, because this is sort of the last gasp of goofy movie Tom Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
So 92, he does A League of Their Own, where he plays a character that is goofy, but that movie is definitively not goofy.
No, and he's more of a gruff curmudgeon, which is not the usual Tom Hanks oeuvre.
Oh, I totally agree with that. He's definitely the comic relief. He's the goofiest character in that movie. Well, maybe not the fully goofiest, but he's pretty.
I think Rosie's there.
Yeah. Well, Rosie's character is pretty by the book, but there's the one girl is a real. I can't remember the names, but I feel like one of the ladies on the team, not the top tier ones, but there's a pretty goofball person. I don't think it's Rosie, but anyway, he has all sorts of Tom Hanks goofiness in that. But the role is pretty serious, and the movie is definitely serious.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, he does Philadelphia, and that's a huge success, and that leads to, the serious Tom Hanks. Much like Spielberg makes Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same year, he wins the Oscar for Schindler's List, and he never looks back at fun. I mean, he makes other movies he makes Jurassic World, not Jurassic World, The Lost World, don't come at me, I remember it, thank you.
Well, I forgot that he did do that.
He never brings, the magic is gone after the Jurassic Park Schindler's List year, which is fine. He had a hard year, I get it, it's fine. But he never again was he the fun Spielberg.
I mean, yeah. Now he's just capital Y, capital D, your dad.
Yeah, so Hanks is interesting to me. So the remake of this movie, it's a series, I believe, not a movie, coming to Disney Plus.
It is. I don't know if it's a remake of the failed series or just a TV show based on the premise of this film.
I think it's the second thing. It's a TV show based on the premise of like fastidious cop with slobbery, yucky dog. Interesting to me about this movie, the most interesting thing about it is we make the joke all the time, like, who is this movie for? Like, that is a thing that
I'm not sure.
I'm actually just like, I couldn't, like, gun to my head, I would be making just the wildest guess, because the jokes with the dog are for children, like capital F, capital C. They're kid jokes. The dog slobbers a lot, it eats stuff, it knocks people over. It's like it's a Beethoven.
It's Beethoven, yeah.
Yeah. But the plot of the movie with the cops and the criminals is very much like standard boilerplate late 80s, early 90s thriller, like smuggling operation, drug operation, something like that. Cop on the tail, solves the case, solves the crime, gets the guy, move on with your life sort of situation. Like one case in the life of this cop sort of.
And it gets a little sexy.
It does get a little bit sexy, and it gets violent, and there's death, which we're going to put a pin in for now because we're going to get there when we get there. But okay, let me ask this question. Have you seen this before?
No, I have not.
How about the trailer?
I don't think I watched the trailer. I knew it was a dog and a man, which ironically, there was a Jim Belushi comedy of the similar concept.
K9.
No one talks about that ever, but like Turner and Hooch is sort of a ubiquitous phrase of like,
yes,
cop and a dog.
Well, one of them has Tom Hanks, and one of them he seems like a nice guy, but Jim Belushi.
Yeah, I guess.
Whose late career turn is he's a weed guy. Like he owns a weed farm and he sells weed. That's his thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But so what did you think this is going to be based on the poster and the stuff that you saw going into it? Because I'm very curious.
So I knew it was Touchstone, not Disney. So it wasn't going to be like all kid stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be in the sort of Splash vein.
Okay.
Where it was like exciting, adventure-y with comedy.
Yeah.
I didn't expect romance. Like I didn't think Tom
Hanks and the dog fall.
I didn't think the dog was going to get in the bath and turn into a human.
Look around the world, pretty baby.
But I thought it was going to be in that vein. You know what I mean? Like that sort of caliber of this level of things.
Yeah, I had, based on the poster, I didn't even know he was a cop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't think, maybe he has a badge and I just didn't remember it, but
the poster is like them at a JCPenney portrait studio.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be Tom Hanks winds up with this dog, hilarity ensues. That like he has.
I thought it was going to be more along that line. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea that like not only is he a cop, but he's a very, very good cop in a world of terrible ones, or at least ones on the dole. It's hard to, or on the take rather, not the dole. It's hard to suss out exactly who's bad in this, but it's a Beethoven with the serious comedy, and then there's also a rom-com sticking its toe in here. It's just a very weird pot. I guess we should just begin at the beginning. We're at Tom Hanks' apartment.
We didn't do the thing.
Oh, you're right. Gosh, it's been 11 minutes and we haven't done the thing. We watched Turner and Hooch, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. Is your giant slobbery dog? Someone's gonna be at your giant slobbery dog.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So we start in Tom Hanks' apartment, and he, first of all, first sin of the movie, he has bread in his fridge.
No, it's a sprouted bread.
Okay. All right.
There's like a sprouted breads are better kept in the fridge.
Okay. Most bread gets stale faster if you put it in the fridge, and everybody knows that, so just passing that along to our listeners.
Okay.
And he takes it out, and there's a little bit of stray mustard in the bag, which I do not understand how it arrived on this bag.
Well, it's also like it looks so. When he takes it out, there's like a bottle of mustard on its side that's clearly like squirted open.
Yeah.
But knowing everything we know about this character later in the movie, that never would have happened. Ever.
Right.
Not once.
Right. So he cleans the bag and then he cleans the counter. And it's like very quickly, I will give this movie a lot of credit. in this first 30-second montage, you're like, okay, he's a really clean person. He's super fastidious, very neat. Like,
It's a less glossy version of the American Psycho opening montage. It's the same concept, but it is less glossy.
It's also not quite as unsettling for whatever reason. This one to me reads like a guy who has at least some form of OCD. American Psycho reads like just real scary. Yeah.
Tom Hanks also has that weird exercise machine that like everyone's parents' friend had in their basement, where it's like the skis, but also the hands.
It's a NordiTrack.
That's NordiTrack?
Yeah, it's a cross-country skiing exercise machine.
I never understood how it worked as a kid. Even watching this movie, I was like, I don't really understand how A relates with B relates with your hands.
So the hands have like a big pulley system, so you're swinging your arms as if like kind of pushing with poles, and then you're zhuzhing back and forth with the skis.
Are they connected at all, the hands and the skis?
I don't know if the speed and movement of them is connected. I'm not 100% sure. This was my second college roommate, by the way. The first roommate I had in college was the first semester of freshman year. It didn't work out for a whole host of reasons. I had to like figure out my situation and move. And a guy who lived down the hallway was nice enough, and his roommate had joined a frat, so he had an open space. And I was like, "Hey, can I move in with you instead of a random person?" And we both were like, "That."
I was like, "Your college wasn't just like here's the person that's going to be in your room."
No. So it was. We had finished the first semester of freshman year. My roommate and I. It wasn't like bad in that we were at each other's throats or everything.
It just wasn't healthy.
We weren't sure if the situation was I suddenly had no roommate and this other guy had no roommate, and we were like, oh, well, what if we just became roommates instead of both of us getting a random person? It's like, you seem nice enough, but neither of us had spent that much time together because he had mono and missed like a month of school.
Oh shit.
And neither of us kind of realized it. And so it's like, we knew each other enough to know we didn't like hate one another, but it was...
That's very different from living together.
The slobby boy, Triplano, with Mr. like all of his pencils were lined up next to each other, pointing the same way every night before he went to sleep. And so like I would come home from class, take off a sweatshirt and drape it over the back of my desk chair. And he would be like, I could see it in his face that like... the anger seething.
Yeah.
So we just weren't a good fit that way, but he was a nice guy. But yeah, so we both had to deal with it for a semester. Anyway, Tom Hanks uses too much floss. Let's get to that.
That's a lot of floss. I'm not even a person who flosses because I can't floss my bottom teeth. I mean, I can, but it's just...
You have that dental appliance, right?
I have the permanent retainer. So like I can buy the things where it's basically like... It's soft and flexible, but it's basically a giant sewing needle that you put the floss through so you can like thread it through the teeth under the thing.
I see.
But I clearly never going to do that.
Yeah. I am not a daily flosser. I do floss, but I'm not a daily flosser. This is not a dental health podcast.
I have a water pick.
Please don't take this as your dental health advice.
And my boyfriend constantly was like, hey, maybe we could put, like, he moved in with me last year during the pandemic, and he was like, at one point was like, maybe we can not have that on the bathroom counter. And I was like, well, why? And he was like, I've literally never seen you use it. And I was like, I maybe use it like every other month, maybe, because I'm bad about it. And he was like, yeah, so like don't put it on the counter. It's taking up all the space. And I was like, yeah, but if I don't put it on the counter, then my brain says you're never going to use it.
To be fair, your bathroom counter was more the edges of the actual sink and less a counter.
Yeah, I had a tiny little bathroom.
It was a premium. Anyway, this is not a dental health podcast. Please do not take your dental advice from this podcast.
Absolutely don't take dental advice from me.
When I floss, it's like, a foot or so of floss that I wrap around some fingers, do some flossing, change the space, do some flossing, change the space, throw it away. Yeah. Tom Hanks uses that much floss per tooth gap.
He uses a box.
He does. He uses a whole box.
He would love those, not the pickers, but it's like that on a handle.
The plackers.
They have those where it's just the floss part, and then you attach it to you can throw it away when you're done with it, and then have the handle be the same.
You swap the floss out. It's like a reusable. I see.
So the head pops off, but you pop in a new flosser when you're ready to go. I don't know if they still make those. This is not a dental podcast.
This is a lot of dental discussion for a dental podcast, non-dental podcast. But so he leaves, he goes to work, and we get the surest sign that you're in for a really rough watch, which is 5 writers on one movie, all credited, 2 duos and a single writer, but it was like blank and blank, and then the AND, which means they didn't work together, and one person's name, and then another AND, and then blank and symbol, ampersand symbol, blank. So 2 pairs and a single. Woof! It needed that many people to get through Turner and Hooch.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
It's a dog cop movie. You shouldn't.
it's
You shouldn't have
pretty.
needed that.
It's right there on the tin.
And we meet his trainee, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, no offense intended here, but Reginald Val Johnson in the same year. Well, maybe it's a year apart. Die
This is
Hard is
89.
I think 80. Yeah, so Die Hard's 88. In Die Hard, he is a guy who's been on the force so long that he shot a kid and had to retire to desk duty and has kids on the way. But here he's a fresh off the academy.
Fresh out of the academy.
Yeah. And I was just like, I know we bring up the John Candy one all the time of the same year he played a college student and a father of 3, but Reginald Val Johnson,
Beleaguered father of 3.
yes, but Reginald Val Johnson playing a guy fresh out of the academy felt like to me, I need some explanation as to why he has changed careers.
Well, I wasn't sure that he. I guess I don't know that he would. I would say he's fresh out of the academy. I think he's fresh to the area.
That's fair. But I want give me. There are 5 writers. Not one of you could come up with a sentence where it was like, I just transferred here from blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Or even this opening scene where he's teaching them the filing system, he could be like, "Oh, that's not how we did it at blank."
Mm-hmm. Back in Akron, Ohio. I don't know.
Right, exactly.
But I was watching this and I was like, he's so good at being a cop that I'm annoyed that he never got to like be a cop in a cop show. Like he played Carl Winslow, who was a police officer,
Right,
but like
right.
Family Matters wasn't like a police show.
Yeah,
Like if a Brooklyn Nine-Nine had been a thing in the 80s, I feel like
Right.
he would have really shown.
yes, he did have one episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine as himself.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's a really good cameo. The episode is when Andy Samberg's character has his bachelor party. That character's obsessed with Die Hard, so they like get Reginald
That's his
Val
stripper,
Johnson to,
quote.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. So I do like a lot. Reginald Val Johnson here looks so sick of this training, and I was like, oh, hey, it's me. 15 minutes into any training I've ever had to do in my whole life. It's like, can we watch this at 1.5 speed, please? I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but my favorite ever like work training thing. First of all, it was crazy because I had to go after hours. It was like an orientation, and at my old job, I was in the office side where I worked like 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, but about 3/4 of the workforce of that organization worked hourly at various places. And so a lot of these things were offered in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go there and it's me and 3 other people. I'm working in the office. They're working as desk attendants and personal trainers at a gym, which like, hey, weird that we're at the same orientation, huh? Which, and again, I'm not like turning my nose up at those jobs. It's just that like you'd think that the orientation for a guy who writes the press releases occasionally versus the person who is a personal trainer responsible for
They
another
seem like
person's
different orientations.
direct health and safety different. But anyway, we get through, there's 4 of us. We get through the videos and the dumb nonsense. And then we get to this like icebreaker team building thing. And
no.
We're split into pairs. She hands each of us a 50-piece puzzle. So we dump out this jigsaw puzzle. And I'm making up these colors, but my puzzle is primarily pink, blue, and red. And their puzzle is primarily yellow, green, and orange. And I'm looking at the pieces, and I see that we have one yellow, green, orange piece that obviously goes with their puzzle. And I pick it up, and I hand it to them. And then I'm like, can I please have that one? And they hand me the obvious puzzle.
That was the thing?
And we do it. And we finish, and the instructor is livid. Like, so mad. And she's like, how'd you know that? And I, instead of being a smartass, which is like every fireman being one to be, like, because it was obviously, like, for their puzzle.
Because I look
like,
at colors, you moron.
I was like, oh, I've done this before. Sorry. It's like, I have to make this person feel better instead of making them feel like a moron. But like, you have your training is dumb and you should feel dumb for doing it. The move is to get two identical puzzles and swap a piece so that people are confused.
When were you supposed to have done the swap? Like, you did the swap. You did the thing that
I think
the training is about working together as a team.
I think you're supposed to like complete the puzzle and be like, oh, I have your piece and you have my piece. We should collaborate. It's like, well,
you did that in the beginning.
Exactly. But she was so steamed. She was deeply unhappy. Anyway, we get our first Tom Hanks yell like inside 5 minutes, which is always a good treat.
Apparently it was a line from this movie. I don't remember which one it was, but it was like a yelling line from this movie that they test animated Woody to be like,
this might have been the line. It honestly was a very Woody delivery.
It was just like, hey, Tom Hanks. I guess it was like for as much for them as to be like, hey, Tom Hanks, please be in our movie. And he saw it and he was like, oh, wow. Yeah, you know what? You're right. I'll do Sheriff Woody. I'll be in your money printing machine.
Well, he didn't know it at the time.
No, no. But can you imagine?
Now it's been so lucrative for the whole Hanks family because his brother gets to do all his voiceover work for like
theme parks and video games.
Yeah. So he has these muffins that this woman across the street made for him. She hands him these muffins like, oh, we're so sorry to see you go. I hope you don't get shot in the big city. He puts the muffins in the car. Reginald Val Johnson's like, well, I'm having me a muffin, which I'm like, heck yeah, man, my kind of person. You don't need 4 muffins, Tom Hanks. Look at you. You weigh 8 pounds.
Yeah, right.
So he starts eating it, and Tom Hanks immediately gets out
pulls
a
a trip.
Buster.
Tom Hanks pulls a trip.
No. That's not true. If he pulled a trip, the muffins would have gone in the trunk where Reginald Val Johnson would not have had the opportunity to get crumbs in his car.
Yeah, I think it's a 6 of one, half dozen the other situation.
It was the first year of my new car, and it was perfect, and I just didn't want it to get crummy, so I was like, you have to eat your ice cream before you get in the car. It's not unreasonable.
But I'm not like a 3-year-old.
But it wasn't that. You had such a drippy cone. It was a warm day. It was already drippy, and I was like, you are not getting in my car with that drippy nightmare.
I think you could have a little more faith in me and napkins.
Tweet at us if you think that I was being ridiculous by not letting him get in my brand new to me vehicle that had leather seats with a drippy ice cream cone.
Again, I'm not a child.
It's not like 2 years ago.
I'm a 6-year-old with sticky hands.
It was 2 years ago. Well, you were going to have sticky hands because you had a melty ice cream.
You have napkins.
Not enough. We go to the docks. Before the docks, we go to
a weird conversation where Carl Winslow says something about like, he says like dude, like on top of Old Smoky. And I was like, what is he trying to say? And he goes, getting laid. And I was like, in almost 30 years on this planet, I've never heard anyone describe it that way.
Yeah. I was just recently on top of Old Smoky, like the Smoky Mountain thing that they wrote that song about. It was kind of a fun thing to be like, hey, I'm literally on top of Old Smoky right now.
Did you
catch who the kid was?
Did you recognize the kid?
Yeah, I sure did. It's Fulton Reed, baby.
It's Laney Boggs' bestie.
Oh, so that's funny. I know him as the Mighty Ducks. Like it is definitely Laney Boggs' bestie, but he's also Fulton Reed from the Mighty Ducks. And isn't he in that Daredevil show? Isn't he Froggy or Foggy or?
Oh, I think he is in Daredevil. Or was it the movie? He's in
he's in the Daredevil show. He's the best friend. Is it Foggy
he plays
or Froggy?
He's good at playing besties.
Yeah. He also has a small role in one episode of the speaking of Disney Plus, that Mighty Ducks reunion show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he there's one episode where all the old ducks are in it. Well, not all, but like a bunch of the old ducks are in it.
Oh, that's fun. Wasn't there a girl on the team, or am I thinking of?
There were several girls on the team. Connie and Guy, the couple, were both in this episode as adults. She, in the kayfabe of the Mighty Ducks, is now a state senator, which I thought was cool. She had the coolest job of them. Yeah. Married to Guy Germain. Good for them. Also, Fulton Reed breaks Bombay's window. That's how the character gets reintroduced. He works in construction, and he's
Is that what he did the first time?
Yes.
Was he the one to do it the first time?
Yes.
Anyway. Are there 3 Mighty Ducks movies?
Correct.
Okay.
And now this show. So we visit the dock, And we've got some 2001 A Space Odyssey intro. Also Sprach Zarathustra for the intro to Hooch, which I thought was pretty good. He's got a muffin. Tom Hanks is really afraid of this dog.
It's real similar to, is it the Beast in The Sandlot? Like when you first see the Beast.
Same
because he's putting on he's laced up the PF Flyers, right?
Correct, yeah.
I will say it was almost comical how much footage of Hooch running down the dock in slow motion they put in.
Oh, yeah.
And how much footage of Tom Hanks. Like, this was clearly a Tom Hanks just riff for a few minutes and we'll take what we want. And in the end, they put all of it in.
Yeah. Well, this is a kind of an interesting movie in terms of production. So Tom Hanks has talked about it being one of the hardest movies he's ever worked on because it's just a lot of it's just him and a dog.
Yeah. He makes it work, though.
Oh, he does a good job. But Henry Winkler was supposed to direct this, and he actually directed the first 13 days of the movie and has apparently never spoken to Tom Hanks since.
He said, I got along better with Hooch than with Turner.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Like, both of them seem like good dudes. So it's
real cool guys.
The guy who plays Amos played the sheriff in Psycho, which I thought was kind of rad. I didn't recognize him as that, but it was like, oh, I know this face. Yeah. So that was, almost 30 years before this movie came out, but he's much older here.
It was, it's 30. I had to try to do math.
1916, 1989. And this is, Hooch is played by Beasley the dog, who had this and only this film role, but the trainer who owned him is like a big time animal movie trainer.
And Beasley was 17 months old.
Yeah, that's a big dog.
Mastiffs are giants.
Yeah. He's drinking beer.
I kept looking at Amos and in my head thinking he was like another. I'm like, he looks like this role could have been like another old actor.
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton would be great. Or Don Amici.
Don Amici also really good. I'm in agreement there. So he's telling Tom Hanks like, hey, Hooch keeps you barking at night because something's going on. And Tom Hanks is like, well, you said you can't hear anything. Have you heard it? And it's like, no. It's like, okay, well, that's going to be important later. Let me write this down. Check off stock noises. ... Thank you. Then we almost immediately we go to bad guys doing bad guy things on the docks.
No, first we have the money.
Oh, that's right. Is that what does Fulton Reed the money finder?
No, Fulton Reed is just a kid on a dock.
Okay.
He's like the dock hand's kid or something.
Okay.
Or a captain's kid. I don't know.
Gotcha.
But some kids found $8,000 or something.
Yeah, but money wrapped in plastic that washed up on shore. And
it's clearly suspicious money.
Yes, this is not like, oh, a wallet has been found. This is like, oh, this is something illegal. I don't know what it is, but it's not legal. It's akin to those things you see every couple of years or so. You see about a thing where they were smuggling drugs either to or from America to Cuba, probably, and they're like, huge bales of marijuana and cash washed up on the shores of the beach in Florida, and they're like, police are advising people not to go looking for them. And I'm like, hey, bud, if I found a bundle of drug cash, I'm going to hide it very, very well because they'll kill you for that.
Yes. But also, what happens with all the money? Because, spoiler, if there were to be a large sum of money that was illegally, got, illegally here, what happens when the police find it?
So Tom Hanks says it explicitly to her. He says, if no one claims this, it's in a certain amount of time, it's yours. So if it's not obvious, if it's not covered in drug residue, you know what I mean? If it's not,
but so cocaine. Later, okay, spoiler alert. Later in the movie, they do a smuggling bust, which is clearly drug related.
Yeah.
What happens with all that money?
I would guess that the money from that would then become evidence in the smuggling case. So this kid probably wouldn't get the cash.
And then what happened? But after the case,
it sits in evidence
forever.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. I was just making sure it wasn't oh, good old Uncle Sam takes it.
I mean, that is probably that is the most logical endpoint for that money because police are allowed to basically do whatever they want. So that seems like that's possible because I know that they take assets from people and civil asset forfeiture is a big thing. John Oliver did a great piece about it a couple years ago. So I'm not sure. But my assumption is if it's an active ongoing case that they have to keep the evidence until all the appeals are exhausted.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's probably where it is for that. And then after that, I'm guessing like if say they catch a drug dealer and the drug dealer has a bunch of cars and boats and stuff, they will auction that person's assets off. So if it's just cash, I'm guessing they do keep it eventually. I mean, I don't disagree with you.
ACAB, baby.
Yeah.
He also says, because it's found by like a 12-year-old, like they're kids.
Yes.
And the kids like want to keep it, obviously. And Tom Hanks says, if you do keep it, you have to spend it on college. That's the law. And I was like,
yeah.
Huh?
That felt just like a let me help you out mom thing.
Got it. Well, because the mom straight up was like, hey, we found this money and called the police because it seemed important. However, do you think more money might wash up on the beach?
Yes, yeah. They're like, no, I don't think so, man.
If we hang out here on the beach for a little while longer, do you think possibly? Because you call it in the one. You call it in the one.
Yeah.
After that, keep calling it in. It's mine now.
The mom is frantically blowing up one of those like 2-person canoe things. Or not canoe, like rafts with the oar locks. The kids are like trying to put the oars together. She's like, so is there any chance that there'll be more that we should look for? The kids are putting snorkels on and stuff.
She's got the big net. The pool skimmer.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. The kids are pulling out one of those like trawling fishing nets that you can carry by hand.
And no, this is where we get the very this is just so classically 80s bad guy.
Yeah. It's there's 3 scenes in this movie where there is clearly just like a fog machine slightly off camera blowing vertical steam at this dock site, and I just kept being like, okay, like I did see them processing some fish, but they're definitely not heating up this fish, and this seems like a lot of steam vapor for ice or refrigeration in general. So why are we at a steam factory all of a sudden?
I don't know. A steam fishery.
But so, yeah, this is the, like, stereotypical, yo, you gotta do the job. I'm doing the job. Yeah, you gotta smuggle the money and do the drugs.
You took my money. I have to kill you.
They get into a scuffle. Hooch starts barking. One of the heavies goes over to take care of the dog, but he meets Amos instead.
And I was like, oh no, Amos is gonna die. Because I didn't think about it.
Right.
That, like, that was gonna be the case.
Yeah, agreed. But if I gotta be honest with you, if I'm Amos here, I'm taking the hush money. The guy is like straight up. He just says, "How much for you to not talk about this? Just quote a reasonable number: $5,000, $10,000. Who cares, Amos? This is not your responsibility."
And then call Tom Hanks.
Oh, but like on the DL later.
Yes, but like that's what I'm saying. Like he should have. It's the whole like good guys don't like to lie bullshit. Sometimes you have to lie to get out of the situation and then go do the right thing.
Right, and also like. Most lies are just to make sure this current situation doesn't go bad. That's all.
Yes, very much. Also, take their illegal money.
Right. Who cares?
Take
Not
it
me.
from them so they can't do bad things.
Exactly. So he gets stabbed in the back.
And then Hooch comes out and chases the guy away. And I thought for sure he was going to like rip off a piece of the shirt.
Yes, that would have been
and then
much
that was going to be evidence.
Agreed. 100% better if that's the case. Or even like a drop of blood.
Yeah, that too.
So we get to the next day and we're on the docks. There's dead Amos. There's Hooch. Who I guess Hooch is in the house at that point. And Tom Hanks and Reginald VelJohnson are doing pretty good police work there. You know, Tom Hanks is covering up the hands, so if there's anything under the fingernails, it's protected.
I've never seen that before, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah, agreed. That seems like something that cops would actually do in this situation. But I am in agreement. I've never seen before. But he's like filing evidence. He's bagging things. He's looking for stuff. He's searching for clues. And
he's using like a whole box of Ziplocs.
Yeah. And these 2 assholes come sauntering up like their legs weigh 45 pounds apiece, and they're just like, you know, John Wayning into the scene, going like, "What are you doing, you big by the book baby?" And it's like, being good at his job, you assholes.
But also, like, don't act like you're big city cop. Like you're in basically Cabot Cove. Like Jessica Fletcher is your neighbor. Like don't come in here acting like you're hot shit because you're the same fucking town, buddy.
I think they're state cops.
I
just bigger jurisdiction is all.
You're a state cop who's on this beat.
Yeah, no,
so
I'm just saying I think that is the situation because Tom Hanks is leaving to become a highway patrolman, he says later, which
I
they
think
don't
so.
really ever explore. Yeah.
In Sacramento.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Incredible shows up.
Yeah, Craig T. Nelson. And immediately I was like, oh, Craig T. Nelson's the secret bad guy. And this movie ends with Tom Hanks taking
clock
his
that
job.
until the very end, and I'm mad.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he's in on it. And Tom Hanks takes his job and doesn't leave the town. That's what we're headed for here.
I'm very mad because I did not get there.
Some dog catchers arrive, and they're one of the man. It's a man and a woman. The man is the person who actually owns Beasley the dog. Is his trainer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that in the trivia. They go to nab Hooch with
Hooch is a great dog actor. Like, I feel like you think about it when like dogs are like well trained and like hit their marks and like look at all that stuff, but like to be like have this much level of like vicious energy, that's talented too.
Yeah, I think he has a couple scenes that are rough, but overall, pardon the pun, overall, I agree with you. Pretty good dog actor.
Yeah.
I don't think he's winning a dog Oscar, but
No.
Pretty good dog actor. But anyway, they've got the classic dog catcher steel pole with a string on the end of it thing, noose looking thing, and they try to both of them get a loop around Hooch's neck, and yet he's still able to overpower the pair of them, which I really found
Well, he
ridiculous.
overpowers the one, and then they say they're going to shoot him, and I was like, that seems like not protocol.
Right.
Like, you tranquilize it first.
So there is less animal tranquilizing in the wild than movies and television have led you to believe.
Well, I mean, I feel like this is an instance where it would make sense to use the like, you're not, like, if the options are shoot it or tranquilize it.
In real life, they pick shoot it.
Really?
Yes. The number of dogs killed by police every year would absolutely horrify you.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know if dog catchers is the same, but the police in America kill a lot of dogs.
I mean, fuck them, but, you know.
The tranquilizer thing, though, I learned there was a bear that was around Frederick when I was working out there in the newspaper, and they were concerned it might have rabies, and ultimately it moved on and stopped being a threat to people, so I don't know what ended up happening with it, but I asked that question, and they were like, honestly, the tranquilizer thing is really only if an animal escapes from the zoo and the people who are responsible for its care know its exact weight and can calculate because if you don't know that exactly, you're kind of guessing. And if you give an animal too much tranquilizer, it can kill it anyway. And if you don't give it enough, it becomes just an enraged, doped up monster. So it's much less likely for tranquilizers to be used for a wild animal. Not never. Huh. You see it sometimes, but
I just always assume because I mean, I guess it's a movie. In movies, like Quint is like can like tell you how much a shark weighs just by looking at it, and I'm like,
yeah,
there's hunters got to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would think your average ranger who spends a lot of time in the wild could tell you about how much a bear weighs, but I don't know exactly. There is a very funny video, speaking of tranquilizing animals, I remember seeing a couple years ago where a bear was up a tree and it was stuck and they tranquilized
with a trampoline?
Yeah, with a trampoline. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, it's much less prevalent than you would think that you trank an animal unless you know its, exact stats. But I do love that this ends with, so man animal controller knocked in the water, lady animal controller is talking to Tom Hanks, and eventually is just like, screw it, I'm leaving. She drops the pole.
I was like, you're allowed to just say no and leave? Like, this is your job.
Exactly. Dereliction of duty.
And then we get some, it doesn't happen as often as I thought it would. But so Tom Hanks gets the pole and like leads Hooch to the car and then they go through the car. And then we're watching through, so it's Tom Hanks with the pole, and you don't see the dog at all. And then you cut to an extreme close-up of the dog with the pole, and then back to the wide with Tom Hanks. I was like, that's a great way to get out of having to do any dog work in this scene.
Yeah. And then we cut to Hooch running alongside the car as Tom Hanks drives, which I thought was pretty good.
That was clever.
I also am very confused as to why Hooch's diet is 50% chocolate, because I know that that's bad for dogs.
That's very bad. It's chocolate, onions, and grapes are very bad for dogs.
Yeah. Grapes just because of choking, right?
No, like wine is bad for dogs. Like okay. It's the grape.
Well, the wine I get, but I thought the grapes was a choking hazard, not that grapes are poisonous.
No, I want to say that it's like something in the grape skin.
Interesting. Dogs don't care for tannins.
No, they don't like a heavy tannin.
A Chardonnay, please.
They have cat wines. I don't know if they have dog wines.
Is that just like liquid catnip?
I think it is. I think it's colored liquid catnip, or like and then you add it to water or whatever, so you like have wine with your cat.
This is a very interesting time to be alive.
Right? So Mayor Winningham is the vet.
Yeah. Do you know who she was?
Yeah, I don't know what I know her from, but every time I see her face, I'm like, oh yeah, you.
Because I thought she was very much, and she seems to have a great career, so please don't take this as an insult if you happen to listen to this, but her look in this movie was very Discount Elizabeth Shue to me.
Okay.
The way they have her dressed and made up and stuff. And then I go to look her up, and her Wikipedia entry says that she was one of the lesser members of the Brat Pack, and I was like, absolutely not. And I go and I look, and she was in a movie with Ali Sheedy. They're like, she was one of the only people in the Brat Pack to be nominated for an Oscar, and I was like, okay, this lady is not in the Brat Pack, and she did a movie with Ali Sheedy called Georgia that she got nominated for an Oscar for, which, like, great. She's a good actor. I think she's good in this movie.
She's talented.
Yeah, I think she's a good actress, but like, the idea that the Brat Pack is just any movie with any of those people in it, and I was just like, absolutely not. There are rules to these things. They're stupid, but they're rules.
It's basically the Breakfast Club plus arguably Matthew Broderick, I feel like.
Well, no, Broderick wasn't in the original in that crew. It was St. Elmo's Fire.
No, but to me, like he feels of that group.
Yeah, he didn't run with
John
that crowd
Hughes.
though. Right, but he didn't run with that crowd. So it was the St. Elmo's people and the Breakfast Club people, and Emilio was in both. And so he was like the president. And I ended up reading this whole Wikipedia entry that while I was watching the movie, because I was fascinated, or after I finished watching the movie, actually, because I was like, this is too long and I'm being distracted. But the guy who wrote the article that made the whole thing a thing and kind of submarined a lot of these actors and actresses' careers really regrets it. He was like, I should never have written that. It was basically, he was profiling.
Did he call them the Brat Pack?
Right. He was profiling Emilio, and as part of it, Emilio was like, do you want to come out to this bar with us? And he goes to this bar, and it's Andrew McCarthy, Emilio Estevez, probably Charlie Sheen. I forget who else was there, but like a bunch of these people were there because they had all become friends from working on movies together and stuff. And like, sometimes you make friends at your work. Most movies, it seems like you kind of go your separate ways after, but you know, some people become friends. And this guy just wrote about them as this sort of like wild about town gang of kids, and all of them struggled with getting adult roles after, and he just really blew up in the thing. And it was really funny reading this interview with Emilio for the Mighty Ducks show, actually, where he was like, they're going to put Brat Pack on my tombstone, so I just have learned to deal with it. It was just like, oh, man.
It's funny because, like, I never realized that, like, because the Rat Pack was, like, Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra and them, right?
Right.
And so the Brat Pack, I was like, oh, it's just, like, another clever name, like how people use something gate to mean, like...
Right. Scandal.
A scandal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I always thought that too because I didn't live through it, but it apparently all of them were like, yeah, it was definitely very detrimental to my career because it's like, how are they going to cast a brat packer to be the lead of a serious drama? They're a brat pack, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, Hooch barks all night after we see the vet who tells Tom Hanks that he has to keep the dog.
She recognizes it. She goes, I recognize you from the bank. And I was like, oh, you're a crazy person.
See, I thought the same thing, but then I was thinking...
But in 1989, I guess.
Yeah. If you get, like, you have to go cash your paycheck. You have to physically take it to a bank, probably. I guess the ATM deposit is available in some places, but I don't know if this town's one of them.
I don't know, yeah. I still remember when I was in high school or, like, early college, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go deposit something at the bank. And Mom was like, did you do the deposit slip? And I was like, the what? And she was like, the deposit slip. You can't deposit at the ATM without one. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, so I'm going to assume that I don't have to do that. And she was like, they're not going to let you do it without a deposit slip. And I was like, okay. And then I left and I came back and she was like, well, and I was like, didn't have to do that. I don't know what you're talking about still.
I remember deposit slips I did for a very brief time. My job at Acme, one of the perks when I worked there at the grocery store was like, oh, we'll cash your check for you. There's no fee. We'll just cash it for you.
Oh, awesome.
And it was like, oh, that's
so you got
nice.
cash?
Well, they would give you your paycheck and then you could do whatever you want with it. But I was basically working a job that I would earn exactly enough to pay Dad what I owed him for car insurance. And then I would get to keep like a negligible amount of money. And so
$10.
Literally one time it was $7.12. And I always remembered that because it was like I owed him whatever it was, $250 or whatever for the time period. And it was like, I got the check, I cashed it. I took $7.12 and put them in my wallet, and then the other money I had like in an envelope. I gave it to Dad, and I was like, "This is genuinely one of the most ridiculous things I've ever done is cash this check and then hand the car insurance company eventually almost all of it."
So yeah, no banks anymore. It's all on my phone.
Yeah. But at the time, they probably both got their paychecks and then stood in line to cash them at 5 p.m. on a Friday.
Yeah.
So Hooch barks all night, and we get Tom Hanks running outside, showing a lot of gam.
Yeah, he in these tiny little black briefs.
Yeah, it felt in hindsight when I was looking at his IMDb like, oh, is this him wanting to like get a little naked, kind of show off the bod, and now he's like, look at me, I'm a serious actor now.
Because he's not even like 80s hot.
Right.
He's just like in good shape.
Right. He's not ripped.
No.
I mean, Tom Hanks was always sort of boy next door attractive versus hot, I would say.
Yes, that's fair. But yeah, he's looking like Weird Science, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So of course Hooch locks him out, as you would expect.
I was like, as soon as it happened, I was like, I should have clocked that.
Yeah, that felt very Beethoven-y. So he gets back inside and it's like, okay, here's the rules for cohabitation, which I thought was kind of like a funny bit, but he does go on a little too long with it.
It does go a little long. But then as soon as he stops yelling, Hooch is like, cool. And I was like, yeah, did you not notice that Amos didn't yell and Hooch was like, cool?
Right.
And that Mayor Winningham didn't yell and he was like, cool? Like, there's a common thread here.
Right. And then specifically, Amos told Tom Hanks that Hooch doesn't do well with violence, so yelling feels adjacent to that.
Yeah. He's a very cute puppy.
Yeah. I mean, he's too slobbery for my taste, but...
Well, yeah. So it ends with him showing him to the laundry room where he's going to sleep or stay or whatever. And he lays out, like, the threadbare, thin, scratchy blanket on the floor. I was like, you can't throw him a throw pillow? You don't have a cheapo throw pillow?
No, he does not. You've seen how this man conducts himself in his apartment. He has no throw pillows. Honestly, my biggest beef with Tom Hanks in this movie is that we know that he's leaving this job inside 2 weeks when the movie starts, and he is nowhere near far enough along in packing. And then we see at one point he's leaving tomorrow and he still has his omelet pan out. And I'm like, buddy, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, it sounds like it's how I pack, which is... I'm too anxious to do it all the time.
Maniacal. So we go to the police office. Tom Hanks is there with Reginald Val Johnson. They get their tox report. Craig T. Nelson comes. Actually, I lied before. At this moment is when I knew Craig T. Nelson was crooked, because Tom Hanks has a big box of evidence, and Craig T. Nelson is like, "Do you know what it would cost to run all this?" And I started cackling because I was like, "In what world is the police department struggling for money in any jurisdiction in America? Come on."
Well, I never thought about that. That it would be a price per, like, you don't just get to like throw out anything you want into at, like, well, I didn't think about there being a cost to each piece of evidence.
Well, in a big city, I think it's you send it to the crime lab and you have a crime lab. But in this case, it's an independent thing. They're not a big enough place to have their own. But yeah, it is funny. Like, well, I can run this swab. That's $5,000, and then this swab will be $3,000. So Tom Hanks and Reginald Val Johnson are like, no, we'll go through it and we'll pare down the evidence.
Well, because I think the other joke was that like Tom Hanks was literally bagging up everything.
Right.
Like anything he saw that was like, he's like, this rock is evidence.
Right. But at this point I was like, oh, Craig T. Nelson's the secret bad guy. Got it. There's no other reason for him to not want to process evidence. So meanwhile, Hooch has eaten the car, literally.
Which, like, how shitty is your car if the seat head rips off that easily?
Well, he bit through it.
He bites and then pulls, and like the whole thing comes off in like one clean motion.
Most car headrests yank right out if you pull up, so I don't know.
Yeah, but like the whole thing, not the cover. Like he pulls the the fabric off the cushioning.
Oh, I don't know, man. I think if you took your average car and you took a knife and slid it like top right corner to bottom left corner, you can yank that thing right off there.
Maybe.
Plus, Hooch is a monster.
Yeah. Next scene is Hooch Kool-Aid manning his way out of the laundry room.
Yeah, this scene is absurd with how long it goes on.
Yeah, again, so this movie is an hour 40, and it could easily be an hour 30.
Yes, it could easily be an hour 20.
Okay, well, that's not a movie anymore.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That doesn't count as a movie in America.
I mean, all the Disney animated movies are like 74 minutes.
Yeah, but they're its own thing. This is Touchstone. We're for adults, baby.
I guess.
We show butts.
85 would have been fine. We show Touchstone pictures. We show butts. I'm going to think about what that's the message hidden in that scribble for the Touchstone logo.
Oh, the piece of wood thing?
Is that what it is? Is it a piece of wood? I honestly have never ever known what it is.
I always just assumed it was a piece of wood.
Ah.
Because I saw it a lot because it was the beginning of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Ah, okay.
So I could pontificate on that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. If someone does, you should tweet us. So I do really like the scene with Hooch destroying the kitchen is kind of like, all right, like the dog eats all the stuff.
We knew we had to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. We're in a dog movie. It's fine. But I do really enjoy the Tom Hanks. It's a back and forth cut. I do really enjoy the Tom Hanks side where it's the grocer just giving him this absolutely brutal hard sell, and Tom Hanks buying every single syllable of it 100%. Like,
well, it's also weird that the grocer's like, it's a shame about poor Amos. I'm gonna lock my door, and then he's like, what kind of dog do you have? And I was like, it's Hooch. Like, if you know Amos,
right
in this town, if you know Amos, you know Hooch.
Also, I feel like if you're in this town, you know Hooch because it's Cujo who lives on the docks.
Yeah, it's the giant scary dog that lives in a houseboat.
Cujo used to work on the docks. That's where we're at here, honestly.
And then
it's like, oh, you need the special turkey and bacon food. I need to get you the dog toothbrushes.
Well, so Tom Hanks in this movie is like the way he's acting about dog stuff is the way that sitcom and movie dads of the 80s acted about babies.
Yes.
Like, I have to feed it more than once a day?
Yeah. When he gets
Tom
to
Hanks
the
is
checkout.
He's like, is this for dogs? So he's holding the can. Like, that's a dog food can. Everyone knows.
Yes.
Like, if I say that, you can picture it. He's like, it says turkey and bacon flavor. And the guy's like, yeah, that's dog food.
He says people like their dogs. They want to feed them good food. He gives him, like a 40-pound bag of Iams and all that business. But I really love he gets to the checkout and is like, $97 in that classic Tom Hanks yells. Very good.
I was like, I'm thinking in like 2021 money. I'm like, this would be like a $300.
It's probably in the ballpark of $225 to $300. Yeah.
Because he buys, like, he like clears out their rawhides.
Yeah.
For Hooch. But at one point, Hooch opens the fridge and pulls out a beer, and I was like, if Hooch doesn't shotgun this beer, I'm mad. And then he didn't. He like poked it and then put his head back so he could like catch the stream. But I was like,
right.
No, I wanted Hooch to bite it, to do a little foam, and then tilt his head back. Apparently,
the problem was Hooch would open the cans, but he didn't like the way beer tasted, so they had to get chicken broth in there for him to drink it. So it just seemed like it was very challenging to shoot.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say, I hope they weren't force feeding a dog beer because, like, that's not cool. But just like, I assumed it was like bite the can, make a foam happen, and then.
Right. I prefer it when dogs do beer bongs instead of the shotguns. It just seems like a safer enterprise,
Yeah. There's also a very weird jump cut that they didn't edit right.
Oh,
so
really?
So this movie's on Disney Plus. Anyone can go find it. It's at 39 minutes, 30 seconds-ish, where Hooch is looking up at the soccer ball. He, like, jumps off screen to get it, and then the little feet on the Nordic track, like, it jumps, like, there's clearly a hidden edit, and the feet move, and, like, something else moves in the background, and then the, like, whatever the ball was on comes crashing down.
Oh, interesting. I totally missed that.
And then, so Tom Hanks gets home, and in a moment of like 80s architecture WTF-ery, his his kitchen counter is at floor height for another room of his house.
His kitchen counter is the height. So you're saying that this, like, what? What room?
So there's the kitchen, and then there's like a few steps up that leads to another room.
Oh,
like the den area, it looks like.
Yeah.
But he like is in a daze and like is wiping down all the messy counters. And then as he's wiping, he like crouches down to step up into the next room, and he's now crouching, wiping down his counter. And I was like, that is so weird.
I guess it's like a split level kind of thing where there's a few steps
It's gotta
down,
be,
a few steps down. Yeah.
And then he breaks his own window.
Yes. Which, in this situation, I might feel inclined to do the same.
Yeah.
So Hooch eats a pillow, and then Hooch brings home a lady friend.
I mean, hey. Also, did you notice that Tom Hanks has one of those weird wire maze baby toy things that all doctor's office waiting rooms have?
Yes, I was deeply perplexed as to why this was in his house.
Because it's painted like it's an art piece, and I'm like,
Right.
that's a baby toy.
Yeah, that is absolutely a baby toy. You push it from one end to the other, and then you push it from that end back to the other end. I've seen this, probably played with one quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. And so he goes to bring the border collie back to the vet, who is her owner, I think.
Yes.
And he tries to sneak.
Do we know why he knows that?
Because the Hooch followed the border collie in the first time they went to the vet.
Got it.
So he tries to sneak Hooch in there to be like, she'll take you. And I was like, she knows it's your dog now. Like,
You went
she
and
knows.
visited her. Yeah.
And then Mayor Whittingham's like, hey, I need your help with my fuses. Come on in and help me. And then in a full-on, you need professional help move,
Absolutely, yes.
he starts painting her room that she's like, oh, I finished for the night. And he was like, you were going to leave it like this? And I was like, oh, you need medicine and a therapist.
Yeah.
You need some drugs to change your brain chemistry.
This has gone from, a very neat person to a person with obsessive compulsive disorder, which is
Yes, very much
treatable. You just got to deal with it.
that. Yeah. And then Mayor Whittingham says she wants 5 kids. And I was like, that's too many.
Right. Agreed. Far
Too many kids.
Too many children. So he's falling for her. It's also weird that he bullies his way into helping her paint. I guess obviously she likes it, but it is very strange.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I would be like, oh, you want to paint? Great, go ahead.
Yeah.
You can paint my house, you fucking weirdo.
So they make a date to go. She wants to go for a walk, and he says, no, I'll fall in love with you. And she's like, okay, well, will you come help me paint the other wall? And he's like, yeah, tomorrow, 7? Okay, great. So they make a paint
I thought it was
date.
sweet.
Yeah.
And they threw in the same slow-mo shot of Hooch running down the dock again because it's a nightmare now.
Yeah, it was very weird. And that leads to Tom Hanks decides to give him a bath, and he's just wrestling Hooch again.
In his little briefs.
Yeah, and his little briefs again. Yeah. Which, is the appropriate wrestling outfit, I suppose.
Yeah, but also, it's a bold move to be like, I'm going to bathe this dog.
Yeah.
Because how are you going to dry it, buddy?
Well, with a towel, presumably?
Yeah, that doesn't always get the job done proper.
Don't
most
you just
groomer.
I'm showing my ignorance here, but don't you just let a dog go outside and it shakes it off and then it's dry? Isn't that how that works?
Not always, because some dogs have undercoats that they really hold moisture.
I see.
And so most groomers use some kind of a hair. They put an adorable thing on basically if you cut the toes out of a sock and then shove the dog's face into it so their little ears were covered, and then they blow dry the dogs. It's really cute to watch.
Oh, by the way, this is the same director as Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Is that 80s?
No, 93.
Ah.
His first movie was Terror Train, which I'm 90% sure is Jamie Lee Curtis in her.
Yeah, that's Jamie Lee Curtis and a magician.
Yeah, so 1980 he directs Terror Train, first movie. He ends the 80s with this, and then just three or four short years later, he's doing Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
It's a weird trajectory.
Yeah. So Hooch is at the police station, not the train station. Although it would be much funnier if he took him to the train station and was just like, "Get out of here!"
We don't want you.
Go on, get. So he
That was almost Jimmy Stewart.
I know it was very Jimmy
more
Stewart.
than it was.
Yeah. I don't have a
Progresso
Lithgow.
soup.
We don't want you anymore. Yeah, that was very Jimmy Stewart.
Progresso soup. What's his name?
John Lithgow.
Thank you.
The Bad Guy in Cliffhanger, BT Dubs. Very fun watch. I just watched that for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Prime or Hulu. Anyway, we're at the police station with Hooch, not the train station, and he loops his dog leash under a desk chair leg or a desk table leg, rather. No, a desk leg. None of those other words are necessary, Trip.
Desk leg.
Dear God. Anyway, and immediately you're like, oh, this is going to end with this dog dragging a desk. And it didn't happen as absurd and funny as I was hoping for it to be.
Well, also, I was like, it took Tom Hanks and Carl Winslow to lift the desk to put the thing under. So I was like, this is a heavy desk.
Right.
And it flies like it's an IKEA desk later. But Hooch goes to the window and sees a wedding. And he sees the photographer at the wedding is the man who killed Amos. And so he's like going nuts. And then that's where he yanks the desk and then escapes the police station.
Right.
And he's chasing a guy, and for some unknown reason, both Tom Hanks and Carl Winslow are like, that must be the man who murdered Amos. We have to follow him.
So there was a throwaway line at the vet's office where he said,
well, yes, he could have identified, but like Hooch has not been Hooch is shown to be like a wild dog at this point.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that was definitely where they were like, that must be why they went right there because of what the vet said. But the other thing is what I really wanted from this scene and didn't get was Tom Hanks getting dragged down a hallway by a dog.
Yeah. It doesn't happen much in this movie.
I wanted a la John Candy and the Great Outdoors. Stay tuned, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Wait, have we not?
No.
Or we did Summer Rental.
Yeah. But I wanted Hooch running, Tom Hanks' feet planted firmly in the floor, like squatted down real low, holding onto the leash like he's water skiing behind Hooch.
Yeah. Or Hanks on rollerblades.
Yeah. Little more telegraphed if it's Tom Hanks wearing roller skates. You're like, okay, well, he's definitely going to get dragged behind a dog now.
Yeah. They carjack a kid because they're police.
They definitely seem to know this kid, which I thought was a good twist on it. And I love that the kid is then sitting in the middle of this two-seater between Reginald VelJohnson and Tom Hanks. I thought that was excellent.
That was a fun one. But yeah, they basically start car chasing this dude. And I'm like, yeah, but like on what legal grounds, buddy?
Right. It does seem a little wishy-washy, but I guess if you caught up to him, you could just ask him questions in public. You probably can't arrest him and bring him down to the station, but you can attempt to talk to him. And I do genuinely wonder if a dog could identify a person as a suspect in this way and have it be justifiable for an arrest. I don't know.
I do believe that a dog could do that. It's just whether that would hold any water in court.
Right. It would have to be that the person then confessed to the crime, I feel. I don't think the dog can go on the witness stand and they can be like, bark at the man who did it. And the dog's like, arr, arr. Yeah.
So they get back to the police station and they're like, well, that man was the one who murdered Amos and Hooch knew it. And we ran his plates and pulled this information. And I was like, again, like me as a movie watcher, sure, but like the law is pretty black and white about stuff. Like there's not a lot of gray area to be like, well, a dog barked.
Yeah, no, it does seem a little fishy. But also, would you be that surprised if you learned this exact thing happened in a case and was fine? Like, would it shock you? Because it wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't shock me because the law is blah. So this next whole sequence is like genuinely one of the most adorable things in the movie because it's a clear arc for Tom Hanks where he's like really liking the dog now because he like makes him a dog bowl full of chocolate chip cookies and he opens him a beer
and raw, like a lot of beef, like a whole steak cut up.
And the dog's sad, so he like play wrestles and play fights with it, and it ends with him biting the dog on the neck just like the dog bit him in the first scene. And I was like, this is like really sweet.
I know this is an insane sentence to talk about a person and a dog, but they do have very good chemistry eventually.
They do. Like there's the scene later where he's at the stakeout and it's literally just probably 5 to 10 minutes of Tom Hanks alone in the car with the dog.
Right.
And it shouldn't work. Like that should be boring, but Tom Hanks just like makes it sparkle.
Yeah, no, agreed. He said that was the hardest scene that they shot because it was just, they were in a car on a rig with a jillion cameras outside, and they either couldn't or didn't want to just direct the dog to do things. So they just sat there, and whatever the dog did, he reacted to it, and they shot until they felt like they had enough to fill the scene out.
You can tell, but something about Tom Hanks and how charming he is, it just works.
Right. I mean, he's a very good actor. It doesn't shock me. Castaway is him at a friggin' volleyball. So the fact that he got...
I don't know that I've fully seen Castaway.
I haven't watched it in a long time. I literally only watched it once.
I think you watched it when family friends came over, and so like you and like I think Michael or Kevin watched it.
Okay.
And then
no, I watched it with Mom.
It was watched again.
Okay.
And and I like half paid attention to it. Like I was in and out of because I was like, this is too much for me. But
Somebody Surviving on an Island is one of my sweet spots. I love survival against nature movies. It's basically kids in peril. That animal doesn't belong there. And oh man, are they going to live through this? Are like my 3 top genres. So anything like that.
What other movies like fall into the third one, like Castaway?
So I just watched a really good one called Arctic with Mads Mikkelsen. He plays, we never know why he crashes there, but he crashes in the Arctic and he's in a plane crash in the Arctic and he meets another survivor and they don't speak the same language. And he tries to, he like basically nurses her back to health and tries to get them both to safety. It's wonderful. Very good movie. That sounds cool. Just like any man versus nature kind of fits. All Is Lost with Robert Redford, another one with very little dialogue, but really wonderful. Like Storm at Sea tosses his little boat all around and he gets stranded. So
Life of Pi?
Never seen it. Didn't seem like it was truly about survival. It seemed like a heartwarming tale of learning to love yourself or something like that, which is not what I'm here for.
Yeah, it's what it seemed like.
Yeah, so I never saw that one, but I was like, if it's just some people stuck somewhere and they got to survive, I'm in. Give it to me. Put it right in my veins. So we're searching for the smuggled evidence at the dock now because we ran the fishery stuff, right?
And they pour lobsters in the tank.
High and low. Yeah,
they get like a broomstick in the lobster tank, and they're like wiggling it. I'm like, leave them alone.
Yeah, this felt like something that's like, I don't need this scene in the movie. It doesn't help anything. Like, show me the dead fish. Don't annoy the lobsters. They're already going to be eaten.
And they find nothing.
So, yeah, fat load of nothing. And at this point, I was sure about Craig T. Nelson because he's like, well, you know, it's not everyone can be fine. Guess you should leave now. I'm going to assign this case to Reginald Val Johnson. You should get out of town. See ya. Bye. Hope to never talk again.
Yeah, now that you pointed out, there were a lot more signs than I noticed.
So Hanks goes to have a final night with his veterinarian lady friend. And I didn't realize, it's like at the time when they started kissing, I was like not quite putting it together. And then she's like, well, aren't you leaving tomorrow? I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely them being like, well, you want to go one more time before I leave?
Yeah. It's also kind of a weird conversation on the beach because she's like, didn't you picture me naked? And he was like, well, kind of, yeah. And I was like, this is weird. Like, this is just a weird conversation.
I thought it was kind of charming and flirty. It was like...
It's definitely like a fun, different kind of flirty than I've seen in a movie. I just still was like, huh?
Yeah. So they do some smooching, and then we're in the kitchen post-coitally to make an omelet. And then it seems like they're about to get back to the coital part in the kitchen while the pan is burning. And he's like, oh no, I figured out the case. I have to leave. And he goes running off with Hooch to stake out the docks.
Well, because he goes, they're not smuggling anything in, they're smuggling out. And I was like, yeah, but like, you still have to have something to go out. Like, you don't just, it's not just like it appears and then you.
Right.
Something has to come in.
In just a moment, we see Tom Hanks break up an ice block and discover the answer. And I wanted this to be a little more like an episode of Psych where it happens because somebody drops an ice cube on the floor and it breaks. And Tom Hanks is like, oh, like that would have been much better to me if she dropped an ice cube and it split into a bunch of pieces. And she's like, oh, this is such a pain in the butt to clean up. And she's like trying to scoop the ice. And he's like, first he's flirting because she's bent over and like he's looking at her butt. And then it's like, oh my God, no, wait, I got it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
telegraph it a little more. I was really looking forward to evaluating the eggs they were going to make, but we never get to see this perfect omelet.
We do not get to see these eggs. These movie eggs are talked about, not seen.
The sub podcast of this podcast. How do those eggs look? Hey, how do those eggs look? Did you notice who this? So they go to the docks with.
Well, first they stake it out.
That's right.
And Tom Hanks eats a dog biscuit.
Yes. He says it tastes like health food, which is probably pretty accurate.
My boyfriend made dog biscuits once for his work, and they are dry, bland, and hard. Because at one point he was like, "Can you taste this and let me know if it's feels like it's done?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I guess it's dry. It's a dry, bland biscuit. So yeah.
You ate a dog biscuit for science.
Yeah. And then he iced them he made a dog friendly icing and like put all the dogs' names on it where he worked.
That's fun. So there's more drooling and bonding with Turner and Hooch in the car, and Reginald Vell Johnson relieves them of duty the next morning, and they go into the docks with Hooch. And did you catch who this man is who they have their back and forth with?
Mm-mm.
It's Bobby Singer from the Supernatural.
Is it really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Looking like a fresh-faced little baby.
I was looking like a baby twink.
Yeah. Well, he's got the mustache and the beard.
Yeah, but he's not the bear that he will become.
Well, he's not a large man yet. That is true.
And he's like, Mr. Boyett said he would do anything to help. And I was like, yeah, he did say that yesterday. We all saw it.
Yeah. But the dog in the fishery seems like a problem. Although cops bringing in canine
police
units
dogs are a
doesn't seem...
thing.
Yeah, that doesn't seem insane to me. So they find some contraband thanks to Hooch.
Well, not even. They find Ziploc bags.
Oh, that's right. But then they know the money was in the Ziploc bag.
They're like, it's the same Ziploc bag. It's the same kind of bag. And I was like, well, yeah, but like, it's a zip top plastic bag.
Yeah, it feels a little bit of a stretch. It's not like I don't know if it's all Ziplocs, but I think the Costco Ziplocs, the sandwich baggies, have a slightly different coloration than the regular, or at least I thought they did. And so I've been like, oh, you also shop at Costco when I see people pull out that green one. But yeah, in general, no, silly, very silly. It's not like they're branded. It's not like Jerry's Drugs is pasted on the outside.
It's Mike's Contraband.
Yeah, Mike's Contraband. When it absolutely, positively has to stay dry, use a Mike's Contraband bags. It's like an infomercial. They have a bundle of cocaine in the bag, and they're like dunking it in a pool, pulling it out.
A fish tank.
Yeah. He's like, no powder loss.
Ordinary bags leak. Then it's like a wet paste.
Wet sand in
but
there.
But Mike's Contraband, your cocaine stays dry. You see someone rubbing it on their teeth.
I think it's Mike's Contra bags.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think
that's what we're doing here. It's like able to withstand high heat, and they like blast it in the microwave. Freezing temperatures, they pull it out of the freezer.
Mm-hmm. And every time it's the same guy rubbing it on his gun.
Yeah, that guy getting progressively more and more mad. They keep cutting to him. Like he keeps doing the test, and his hair is getting more and more Kramer-like until finally he looks like a racer head. And it's just like
looks like, yes,
straight up in the air.
He also Tom Hanks also
it still tastes great, Mike. Tastes wonderful.
Tom
Can't feel my teeth.
For some reason, doesn't think that the owner of the fishery is involved in the smuggling.
Yeah, that part is like baffling.
Hey, buddy, he obviously is.
Yeah, exactly. So they go to investigate this motel where they think the guys hold up, and Tom Hanks. So this part's confusing to me because it feels like the part in other movies where the cop has gotten kicked off the force and they're like, screw it, I'm going to solve this crime anyway. And they're working not as a police officer. Because Tom Hanks comes into this motel, asks the clerk for help. The clerk won't help him. He pulls a gun and shoots the wall and is like, next time I won't miss. Tell me what I need to know. And then the guy who he's looking for comes in with a gun and kidnaps him. But I was like, why is Tom Hanks suddenly this rogue cop?
Because he wants to solve the case. Amos was his buddy.
I know, but it's very strange.
So the guy was like, hey, you're going to drive my Cadillac. And all I could think was the Zombieland. Like, always wear your seatbelt. Because Tom Hanks knows that this criminal is not going to wear a seatbelt.
And he very deliberately puts it on, and then he puts his glasses on. He's like doing his normal car, routine.
He turns into Baby Driver.
Uh-huh.
And then crashes into a a low wall and sends the guy flying out the windshield.
Yeah, this dude should look like he went through a cheese grater. It's ridiculous how fine he is when
He should be bloodier and his neck should be at a weird angle.
Yeah. I also always think in situations like this, there's a scene in Last Action Hero where Arnold does essentially the same gag, but he crashes head on into another car and he's like, Toyota Corolla, driver and passenger airbag. Check a cab, no airbag. And the guy is like he's been ejected like through the windshield, but not all the way out of the car and is just dead.
I have to rewatch that movie. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen it in years either.
So then Hooch gets to be involved in the interrogation, and it's great.
Yeah, it is. But also, this is the same question. It's like, why is Tom Hanks the bad lieutenant, port of call, Cabot Cove all of a sudden?
Because he wants to solve his buddy's murder, famous Amos.
I guess, but he wasn't this motivated like moments before.
I think he just wants to solve it before he leaves. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to leave this town messier than I found it.
Yeah. So we go back to the steam factory.
And I was very concerned for a second we were going to have some bullshit drama about, I was like, oh, he was supposed to have a date with Mayor Winningham.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, thank God there's not enough time left in this movie for that to be drama.
Right. So he calls in for backup, and Craig T. Nelson shows up just by himself. And Tom Hanks is like, where's the rest of the backup? And he's like, oh, I got him on the radio. They're just down the road. It's like, well, that's extremely suspicious.
Yeah, as soon as it walked up with him, I was like, oh, I guess he's the bad guy then.
Yeah. So Hanks is smarter than him, and he swipes his gun here, which is good. And he knows the whole
block of ice.
Explains the whole plan.
And then the owner of the fishery is like sneaking around too, and he turns off the lights as Hooch sneaks in through a skylight.
Yeah, which I like a lot. There's a bit of business before Craig T. Nelson shows up where Tom Hanks is like, cover the back, Hooch. Do you understand the back? Like the backyard, cover the back.
And he does.
Yeah.
And I was watching this and I realized, has there ever been someone gets drowned in a lobster tank in a movie?
I am certain the answer is yes, but I don't know the movie. That feels like a Steven Seagal move.
Yeah, or maybe it was in an episode of Pushing Daisies.
Oh, okay.
It feels like it could have been a Pushing Daisies episode.
What I think would be even more interesting is, the person has a shellfish allergy and you dunk them in the lobster tank.
Oh, shit.
I think that's way cooler.
Or if you if it's more sneaky, it's like you put lobster tank water in their water glass.
Sure.
And so no one knows what's happening.
I imagine people would kind of recognize that it tastes like the ocean when they drank it.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of water is it. Is it salt water in those things?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's where lobsters live, my man.
Sea bugs.
The score is extremely weird in this whole sequence. Did you catch this?
Yeah, it's not the best.
It's. I'm not even saying that it's bad. It just feels like it's from a completely different movie.
Hooch jumps to the owner of the fishery and he shoots him.
Yeah, I could not believe that they shot the dog.
Well, I thought I wouldn't have been shocked if they shot the dog and then he got fixed and he's wearing he's got like a cast on or something. I thought that's where this was going. I was like, oh, he gets shot. He's going to save the day, being a little cast. They're going to have like a thanks for saving the day Hooch party at the end.
Yeah. A Hooch parade, perhaps.
Yeah, I was expecting that. I was expecting the end of Lady and the Tramp. Yes, a hoochie-nanny. A hoedown hoochie-nanny. I was expecting the end of Lady and the Tramp, where you think the dog's dead, and then, oh no, he's alive. It's fine. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
Not what this movie gives you.
Yeah, no, we will get there momentarily, because I have a lot of thoughts, but I do want to get to them in natural order here.
So, basically, Tom Hanks shoots the fishery owner, and then Mr. Incredible is like, hey, put your hands behind your head. And when the fishery owner tries to be like, he still has his pistol, Mr. Incredible just turns around and kills him.
Yeah, blows away with a shotgun off camera, which is fine. But I was like, oh man, what are we doing now?
And then it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's criminal. It's criminal, but it makes a lot of sense. He was like, this will be a lot easier to cover up if we have the same story.
Yeah.
It's to say that this guy was the bad guy. And then he lays it out here's what happened, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, Tom Hanks goes, well, it is a lot of money. And I was like, he didn't offer any money. Mr. Incredible did not say, I will give you money.
Yeah, he does sort of imply it, but he doesn't say it directly. But
In this case, I need to hear it. I need a number.
Oh, for sure. I do need a figure that my soul is worth in this instance. But Tom Hanks sees that Hooch is not quite dead yet. And so we're clearly stalling for time, much like, the guy's been shot, but he has a pistol that he can crawl to. But instead it's Hooch dragging himself by his front paws because the back half of him seems paralyzed and dead, slowly with a ridiculous score. It's practically in slow motion, super speed slow-mo, dragging himself over to Craig T. Nelson, who keeps taking a quarter step backward with this gun toward Hooch until finally Hooch gets in chomping range, and Tom Hanks has been stalling this whole time so Hooch can viciously bite Craig T. Nelson, and then Tom Hanks, scuffles with him and takes the gun and arrests him. But Craig T. Nelson just crumbles, immediately when this dog bites him. But in the context of the movie, Hooch is literally dying.
Yes, he is.
Hooch don't make it. Hooch is dead. There's no more Hooch.
Yeah. It's not. I was
how hard is this dog biting in this movie? You know what I mean?
So I normally don't read the trivia for a movie while I'm watching it.
Yeah,
just in case.
Yeah.
And this time I was like, it's a Touchstone movie about a cop and a dog.
Yeah.
What are they doing? So I'm watching, and I was halfway through the movie, and in the trivia section it talks about there was a cut of the movie where Hooch didn't die, and I was like, he what?
And the real injustice of it is he dies once again to this weird Casio keyboard pre-programmed button score. That's honestly what it sounds like. It's oh, what do we got? Marimba? Beep boop 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 boop. What are we doing?
They rush this dog covered in raspberry jelly to Mayor Whittingham's vet table, and they start to perform the procedure on him. And I was like, this lucky puppy just covered in jam.
Yeah. And she's like, he's lost a lot of blood. And then I was like, I don't know how animal blood transfusions work.
I was just thinking, do dogs have blood types?
I'm guessing, but what I really honestly, because of this is a children's movie, was expecting Tom Hanks to go, well, I'm O negative, I'm the universal donor, and then roll up a sleeve and Tom Hanks's blood saves the dog, which is, don't get me wrong, capital V, capital S, very stupid, but I could not believe that the dog dies.
Well, apparently there was a cut where the dog lived and a cut where the dog died, and they tested the same, and Katzenberg, the fucking monster, was like, well, the filmmaker's original intention was for the dog to die, so we're gonna do that one.
Well, if you got the auteur behind "Stop or My Mom Will Shoot," you gotta give him final cut.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, he's not Spielberg.
He's a gun for hire.
I'm sorry. Normally I respect the artists. In this instance, the artist is wrong.
All five writers got together and were like, the dog dies.
Because, normally, in a drama, you expect it. This is a comedy.
Yeah.
So, why did the dog have to die?
Right. It makes, especially because this ending is so stupid. We cut from the dog to Tom Hanks clearly seems to be chief of police. And then he goes home to the veterinarian, who's now seemingly his wife. And they
say his wife.
Okay. There's a million dogs barking, and we go upstairs, and her dog has had 19 dogs. They're everywhere. These collies. Is that what they are? Collies? They look
yeah, they're border collies.
Okay. So these are all yip yapping away, and then we see a trail of mayhem, and stuff's all broken, and Tom Hanks starts going, "Oh, you know the deal," and he starts rattling off the contract, and I was like, "Oh, okay, so it was a fake out." I mean, that's dumb. I hate when movies lie, but the dog.
Oh no, I knew it was. I was like, this was not a lie. This is going to be a baby Hooch.
You read the trivia. I hadn't read the trivia, so I didn't know that the dog died. So I was like, oh, okay, this is that was a fake out, but it's really Hooch. And then they reveal a cute little puppy, and my last note is, holy shit, they killed the dog. I cannot believe this ends with the dog dead. That's unbelievable.
It should not have. Well, also because it has a TV, they try to make a TV series out of it. So I was like, what is the TV series?
Exactly. Well, presumably so many of those, and I don't know this one in particular, but so many of them are basically we start the show 10 minutes before the end of the movie. So the movie plot has wrapped up, but we didn't get the ending for the character. Do you know what I mean? The final, here's the the neat ending that ties it all in a bow. Usually those shows are like, throw that scene out and the rest of it's the same.
Okay, it's like how when you meet characters in Disney, you're meeting them. I think they say 2/3 of the way through their movie.
Yeah,
it's
the same. Stance. Yeah, it's the same kind of vibe for sure. But yeah, they killed the dog in this movie, which is gotta be why this movie isn't beloved, right? Like if the dog lives...
Well, Tom Hanks said, he's like, this movie would have done much better if the dog lived.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like, I'm picturing, it's 1989, mom wants to go see a movie. Oh, there's Tom Hanks in the dog. I'm not saying our mom, I'm saying mom proverbially. Like, like moms, whatever.
Although our mom would love this.
If the dog
the idea of Tom Hanks in a dog movie, I'm sure she would have gone to this.
If the dog didn't die, as soon as you find out that the dog dies, like, you're just killed by word of mouth, just destroyed. Oh, you saw Turner and Hooch? How was it? They fucking killed the dog. That's the answer that you get from everybody.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's baffling.
It doesn't, especially because the ending is, if the ending was Tom Hanks moves away, sure, the dog would have tied him to this town. He stays in the town. Yeah. And marries the vet.
Yeah.
And becomes the police chief.
Right.
So everything about what happens next should be he has the dog with him and the dog is now a police officer.
Right, exactly. He's the canine, like, we should cut to Tom Hanks.
He's the canine chief.
Exactly. We have a desk for Tom Hanks and a smaller desk for Hooch.
Exactly.
That's what the people want. And I'm not even like the crazy dog person. I'm just like, this is a movie. Why are you ending it like this? What I really am looking forward to, honestly, is so Disney Plus is got the show coming out. Presumably when the show comes out, they're going to push the movie as like, we have that too, for all the parents who are like, I remember that. We should watch that before we watch the show. I cannot wait for the inevitable trending on Twitter of people finding out that the dog dies. It feels like it's absolutely going to happen. It's like, we know. It's crazy. The dog dies.
Oof a doof.
Yeah, it was pretty unbelievable. Do you have any other final thoughts other than, oh my God, they killed the dog?
I just can't believe they killed the dog.
Yeah, it's bonkers. One of the wilder decisions in any movie we've had.
Fuck off, Katzenberg.
You of the guy who needs to have his emails printed and folded long ways for him.
Yes, right?
Yeah, he's a maniac. He of Quibi, now Roku Originals.
Quibi is up there with Candy Crush the game show with like the biggest wastes of money I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah, but at least that was one show and not a whole network that got destroyed.
They were like, let's do short form media. Let's take over short form media, and every short form media person who came in with an idea, get the fuck out.
Yeah, what we meant was, let's put stars in things that skirt the laws of a filmmaking industry, and then we don't have to pay them as much.
Yes.
We're going to make a movie, but we're going to cut it into 12 or 14 discrete 7-minute chunks so that we can put ads in it.
Get out of here. We saw right through you.
Yeah, Quibi's dead. Long live Quibi. As far as Turner and Hooch goes, I don't recommend this one. You got some fun stuff with Hanks. Like if what you've always been missing is watching a movie with Tom Hanks and a dog, I guess this is going to be your Huckleberry.
Yeah.
But there are better of both things. I mean, not together.
You could probably I'm sure there's a YouTube compilation of funny moments. It'll hit all the good spots.
Yeah. But it's not the best Tom Hanks and it's not the best dog movie. So it's neither fish nor fowl, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's solidly good for both, but it's just like, okay.
I would probably recommend this movie if the dog didn't die, honestly.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
It totally changes the whole like way you walk out of this movie at the end. It's like, nah, I didn't like that, actually.
And they can still have puppies. Like, you could have the dog live and there's also puppies.
Right. Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense.
Because how much cuter would that ending be if it's like, Chief, your wife called, Hooch, the missus called, you got to get home and take care of your kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the
and
puppies
then Hooch like runs out the door first.
Yeah. If it was like the puppies are here, that's much funnier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook or at Dissect the 80s on Twitter. We would love to hear from you, especially if you have answers to any of those many questions we threw out there during the course of this episode. Don't forget to check us out at dissectingthe80s.com. And if you want more Dissecting the 80s, head over to patreon.com/dissectingthe80s, and you can see all of the great stuff there. We have a number of tiers and ways for you to become a member. You get all sorts of free stuff like stickers, our monthly email newsletter that lets you know a little bit in advance what movies are coming up. I know some of you out there like to listen to the movies before the episodes come, so that helps
Watch
you.
the movies.
Yeah, listen to the movies. Gosh, I am losing my mind. Watch the movies, so you can go there and do that. And at the $5 tier, you get the quarterly bonus episodes and a whole bunch of other bonus content. So check that out. We are somewhere in the ballpark of 18 hours of bonus content at this point, and very close, more than halfway to bonus episodes.
And a lot of heavy hitters hiding in there.
Yeah, for sure. Top Gun, the great Muppet Caper, all sorts of
Roger Rabbit.
Roger Rabbit, yeah. We will be back in 2 weeks on July 26th with another movie celebrating a big anniversary, Night of the Creeps, which I haven't rewatched in a long time, but I'm excited to check out. So check that one out if you can, and we will see you on July 26th to listen to that. Thank you so much for listening. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production. Things we're gonna cut out in editing.
Tuna and Hooch.